So we are going to continue our series, which we started last week, which is Discover Your Divinity, a Modern Guide to Affirmative Prayer, based on this book, written by two incredible women, Reverend Linda Martello-Whitsitt and Reverend D. Ann Morrissey. Reverend Martello-Whitsitt will be here March 23rd and 24th, and we'll talk more about that, and I am so excited. And so last week we talked a little bit about what affirmative prayer was, what it wasn't. For some of you, it brought you a little deeper, or some of you kind of like master metaphysicians, and you're like, I know that. So then I spoke about things that we would build on, principles, foundational teachings that are important to the affirmative prayer process, which Reverend Linda and Deanne Morrissey have created a new flow or movement from the previous 5-step prayer movement, which we will get into in a couple of weeks. So today, I want to start off with good old Einstein and this quote: "A person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion to find the reality of oneness." So what does this mean to you? Let's just take a moment. There's no right or wrong answer, but what does this speak to you about? And if you are on Zoom, you can put something in the chat, and if something appears, Matt will share it with me. Anybody in the sanctuary? Vinny, can we just pass the mic?
And I work Monday through Thursday, and I'm off Friday through Sunday. I love my free time, but I can't wait to get back to my purpose on Monday morning. I get impatient to extend my compassion to someone else, and it's such a balancing act for me, because it feels like I should be doing more, and we've spoke about this before. And the woman I'm caring for is not well, so there's lots of mixed emotions there. I feel like I need to be there all the time, but yet I know I need time for myself. So there's like a delusion of consciousness.
Yeah. Well, and it's again, as we navigate between the poles, right? We spoke about self-care and care of others. It's a both and rather than an either or. And sometimes navigating between that can be challenging. And, and when we speak of oneness, right? So having that separation of prison for us can maybe mean, and I'm not saying this is what's going on, can maybe mean like when I'm doing this and only this, I feel connected, but when I'm doing this, I don't feel connected, right? Could possibly be, it's easy, like for me, to affirm truth and abundance and prosperity, when I have a couple million in the bank, and when I'm in the physical circumstance, right, of maybe having a minus 25, that is where I need to hold, like, does the law of abundance still operate? Does the law of oneness, meaning I am one with the abundance that is flowing in this universe? And sometimes it can be, that's why it's called walking in faith, in what is unseen, in that knowing. And again, there's that turmoil where you can call ourselves, okay, how may I walk between or experience the poles of self-care and caring for others, knowing that no matter where I am that I am. I am one. I am one with the one. I am the one. This person before me is the one. And sometimes I may know that in truth, and sometimes I may have that quickening of that knowing at the core of my being.
And oneness is having compassion and self-care for myself as well as for others. It's not separate.
No.
It's not.
No, you don't have compassion. Yeah, exactly. And we're going to look at.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm not quite sure exactly which one part helped you, but I'm happy. Yes, and Lindy, and then we're going to move on. Lindy? Is there anybody in the chat, Matt? No?
So I'm always fascinated to see somebody that's known as a scientist and for, I mean, that's just how Albert Einstein is known. And I did see a quote one time from him in my chiropractor's office that was interesting. That didn't have anything to do with what we associate, the theory of relativity and this now, I mean, that's just amazing to me. Because if I've never seen this, being involved with New Thought and Unity for so many years, I'm willing to bet that, the general public has no idea that some of the great scientific, quote unquote, minds were so spiritually progressive and so much about this kind of idea of oneness and everything being connected. And I just find that fascinating.
I mean, Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of Unity, was all over science, the merger of science and spirituality. And we have that today with, minds like Lynn McTaggart, who wrote The Field, which, is another name. We'll talk about that later, not her book, but, and also Greg Braden, The Divine Matrix. So science knows that there's the interconnectedness or the concept of oneness. Yes.
Right, but the difference is that the public doesn't know those names. Everybody knows Einstein, and Einstein is even used as kind of a substitute for saying genius,
Right.
It's just that he's just such an everyday household word.
Right, but we think of only
and
science.
Presence, but
right.
Yeah, the other,
Yeah.
Just, that I don't think that, people have any idea of what else he was about.
Yeah, that could be very well true. Absolutely. And it is refreshing to see that merger of science and spirituality. And so what I would like for us to look at, and what the purpose of today is going to be about, is it's going to be us exploring what he says, that reality of oneness. How would we describe it? What is oneness? And how does understanding the principle of oneness empower us in our lives? How does understanding the principle of oneness empower or inform how we use affirmative prayer? And again, this is going to be something that builds each week. And so I want to begin with looking just at the word oneness. I'm glad you're connected because I'm not up here. So, no, I'm always connected. I'm always connected. So oneness is a synonym for God and used in New Thought teachings and other spiritual teachings. It is a synonym for God, just as universe, source, spirit, life force, the one, unified field, divine matrix, divine mind, infinite potential, and principle. All synonyms for God, synonyms for oneness. And in the words of Shakespeare, a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. Meaning that regardless of the name of things, what we call it, it doesn't change what it really is. Right? God, oneness. Oneness, aka God, is the one power and presence in the universe. The life force is the one, or oneness is the one power and presence in the universe. And according to Emily Cady, author of Lessons in Truth, she said that there is only one creative energy source and cause of all life. One singular, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, one singular. And if there's only one presence, one power to get into, one creative energy source from which all life is created, you are it, Donna. So are you, Vinny, and Mike, and me, and everyone. The crystals, everything in the universal flow is one, aka oneness, aka God, life force, right? Some of us would think that is blasphemy. So I want to, as we go along, again, some of you, this is something you're very familiar with and excited about. And for others, as Donna mentioned before, that little nasty thing called chemicalization, where you have your belief system, and as Paul Hasselbeck would say, your adjacent possible. Oh, I never thought of it that way, but I can see that, and that excites me. And then there is, this is crazy, you know what? No way, get out of here, you feel uncomfortable, you know, you're uneasy, and you have that chemicalization occurring, which can come in the fight, flight, freeze kind of sensation. And so, as we talk about oneness, Reverend Linda Martello-Whitsitt and Deanne Morrissey share this. Oneness, by its very nature, is indivisible. There is nothing that can be separate or outside of it. Oneness cannot be split or dual. It is whole, always. And if nothing is outside of oneness, you cannot be separate from oneness. All are one, even as the one may be experienced and understood in infinite ways. And then from Emily Cady, God is the name we give to the unchangeable, inexorable principle at the source of all existence. And then from good old Myrtle Fillmore, we have some woman power this morning. Yeah. Rather than holding the view that God is a personal being with parts like a man, a being subject to change and capable of varying moods, though personal to each one of us, God is it. Neither male nor female, but principle. Principle. Okay, we have another name for God. No wonder why this stuff gets confusing. Right? As we look through the Fillmore's writing, they use different words, but it's clear in their definition what they define God as and what they define oneness. So oneness is the prime principle from which all principles emanate. God is the principle, the prime principle of oneness from which everything emanates. You with me? Okay. Principle. So let's break down what principle is. A principle. Principle is a fact, a truth. It's a constant. It has no opposite. It is neutral. It's neither good or bad. It just is. It is always active in our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. I'm going to go back through these in just a minute. It can be used constructively or destructively, and one principle builds on the other principles, and principles can be simultaneously working at the same time. So let us start with something we're familiar with, the principle of mathematics called addition. All right, going through this list. 4 plus 4 is 8. It will always be 8. It is a fact. If you do it or I do it, we get 8. If there's something different, it is an error, a mistake, but that answer will be constant. It's not going to change. The principle of addition is neutral. It's not good or bad. Now, we may feel like it's something bad when we have too many, we add up our expenses and our eyes go boing, but it's not about addition, right? It is always active. Sometimes we use addition, to calculate our calories or macros, which I'll talk about in a minute, our expenses or what's coming in. And if you're a mathematician, I don't know if it comes in building rockets, if there's formula. Yes, Charlie shakes his head. Yes, we will use it. And we can use it constructively or destructively. So if I understand it and I use addition in a correct manner, I will pass my math test in school. How many of you like to pass your math test in school, right? Or if I don't use it correctly, right, or don't understand it, I may fail the test. Or if I decide not to add up my expenses and I keep spending, I might have a destructive result. Get it? It's either there nor here. And then addition is the prime, right? And then we learn what? Subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? They build on one another so that you can perform Facebook equations like this, right? Now we do need to know them more for this, just a little levity in the day. So now we're going to advance to the next one and go back to, again, those principles. We look at it in the law of thermodynamics. What the heck is that? That is about how our bodies burn calories and foods, macros, understanding the formula of this is my weight, this is how active I am, this is where we're going to build on addition, division, subtraction, and we're going to come to this number of how many calories I should have in a day, how many proteins, how many grams of proteins, how many grams of fat, and how many grams of carbohydrates. And then I get to use my FitnessPal app on my phone. Now, whether I understand thermodynamics, whether I've calculated my macros, whether I count my calories or not, I can possibly, if I understand how to use it, I can have a constructive result. I might lose a few pounds and I will feel fit and well because I'm learning that not all calorie is equal and I'm not going to put junk in my body and I have a positive result. Or destructively, I don't even need to know about it. I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want, how much I want. Anybody ever do that? I wouldn't advise it. And then your energy just drains, or you start getting aches. Anybody would eat too much sugar, get an ache in your body? Not so much when I was younger, but I do get it now, right? So then that might be that would not be a negative result. So now we're going to go back to these and insert God as principle. God is a fact, a truth, oneness. Oneness is a fact, oneness is truth that is constant. Oneness, aka God, the principle, is neutral, neither good or bad. There's no dude in the sky looking at you, dispensing whether you're a good girl, bad girl, so on and so on. We don't need to say, oh, please do this, please do that. It is neutral, right? But it's always active. That power is always active, and we can tap into it as we understand it, and we can use it constructively or deconstructively. If we know, as we're going to look at, the law of mind action, aka the law of cause and effect, right? We tap into it. It goes back to what Sheer was talking. My consciousness. I know my thoughts, who I am being has the power to change my my experience. I'm not a victim. Wow. Constructive, positive results in your life. Empowerment. Isn't it a wonderful thing? Right? Destructive. I am a victim. And then we know that the prime principle of oneness, the foundational principle, other principles build on. And they work together. And three such principles are the omnis, okay? So I am going to share before we go there. So just like we use, let me back up, just like we use addition, we use the principle of oneness. We use God. Blasphemy. No, God uses us. Wasn't that what we were taught? Right? So Charles Fillmore says this. Okay, in the original writing, because we know that both Myrtle and Charles define God, aka oneness, and principle. So in parentheses, in one of Reverend Paul Hasselbeck's book, he put in parentheses God. So here we are, Charles Fillmore. Principle, God, only does what humankind says principle, God, should do. Principle is our servant. Did you ever think of that? That this wonderful spiritual principle out of which everything is made is here at all times, is always present with us, and we are using principle, God. And now, going deeper, God is the prime principle of oneness. The prime principle of oneness, Linda Martello Whitsitt and D. Ann Morrissey share this. As the prime principle, it is the constant from which every other physical and spiritual principle arises. With oneness as the prime principle, just as addition leads to subtraction, we can begin to identify other truth principles that naturally arrive from oneness. In unity, there are three very clear defining principles and characteristics of oneness called the three omnis: omnipresent, omniscience, and omnipotence. Just as you are not separate from the principle of oneness, you are also not separate from the principle of omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. So the prefix omni means all, the allness. All, everywhere, and in everything. Now notice that these are written in noun form, because a lot of times we see them written as adjectives of God when we're using God as some being up in the sky. So we say the principles are constant and we refer to them as the noun, omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. And these are principles, constants, always present, always active, and available to each one of us. So let us look at each one. Some of these, again, you are aware of. Omnipresence is about pervasiveness everywhere. The word Linda Martello Whitsitt uses is everywhereness. It is our capacity of pervasiveness. It is not in one centralized location, right? It's not just in the sky where we pray out there. It's not in one special, although the presence of everything in this world is of oneness, is of God. It's not just in that crystal or on Mount, in Arizona or in the Grand Canyon. It is everywhere, all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. And it's not limited to human form, non-local. Now, I know some of the mystics were able to bilocate and levitate and all that. But if you think about it, how do we experience that everywhereness? We have Zoom. We have people from other locations, right? Present with us here right now. You have so many, the internet, all different apps, the telephone, although it may be ancient, right? all ways that we can be connected no matter where we are. And so when we hear a very famous affirmative thing, a prayer, wherever I am, God is. And it is a reminder that all that God is, all the divine ideas are present everywhere. So we move into omniscience, and that is the capacity of knowingness. All knowledge is available, and we have the innate ability to know. That is our capacity of intuition, of knowing. How many of you have thought of somebody and then a few seconds later got a phone call from that person? I remember being in a workshop one time with somebody I never met. And we were sharing, and I had this tingling in one of my breasts. I'm just going to share that. And it kept on going, and it kept on going. And I had this thing, and this intuition was saying, say something. I don't know, I'm having a tingling in my breast. Do you know it is something going on, with your breast? The woman started to cry the day before she was diagnosed with a lump in her breast. And we went into affirmative prayer. We, that all-knowing, we are connected to the one, we are the one power, the one source. And in that moment, there was that divine intuitive knowing. And then there's our last omni for today, which is omnipotence. It is the capacity of powerfulness. All power is available. We have the innate power to be powerful. When I was going through my divorce, and my ex-husband was active in both drinking and taking substance, I don't know where I was thinking we can go to a mediator. Anyway, that is my nature we can look it out. But after the second time of him showing up, as a bully because of the effects of what was going on within him, and the mediator being intimidated, and I was intimidated with both of them, and this time I'm like, oh no, this is not happening, right? Even though my legs were shaking, I'm like, that's it. I'm leaving. I need to get my own lawyer. And it wasn't about the lawyer has the power. It was like, this is not a healthy thing, and I'm going to claim my power for what is right. We see Jean Carroll in the news with the ultimate bully of our ex-president saying, no more. I will not be bullied anymore. Wow, that was just my ex-husband. I can't imagine being on the world stage and feeling bullied. To claim, to know that we have the power. I'm going to share something at the very end about this power, about all the omnis. And so, my friends, as we are coming to a close, how does the understanding of God as oneness, and understanding God is the principle, the prime principle of oneness, and knowing the principles of the omnis, how does that empower you? How does that empower you? That is the reflection that I'm going to ask you. And I close with two things. One is with a quote, and then one with a video. And the quote is from Emily Cady. We have come to a place now where our search for truth must no longer be the rewards. It must no longer be a creed to follow, but it must be our living a life, our fifth principle. It's nice to study these. Oh, I know that principle. Oh, I know that definition. What are we living it? Where are we in the self-imposed prison of separation? Where are we not claiming the omnis in our life, in the congruency that I am one And there is a beautiful video I'm going to end with. We're going to skip special music today because it was a divine idea that popped into my head this morning. And this is a clip of a gentleman who is from Africa, who is in America's Got Talent, the Fantasy League. He is from Africa, and when he was an adolescent, he had experienced the diagnosis of cancer. And part of that treatment, he lost one of his legs. And that's all I'll say. And I want you to see in expression his power, his knowing the truth of who he is, and that he couldn't be present in the audition, but he came, I don't know if it's Zoom, Skype, whatever they did, and again, everywhere present. So I leave you with this beautiful, beautiful human and divine being, which we all are. May you be inspired by him.
Look at all the hate they keep on showing. I don't wanna see that. Look at all the stones they keep on throwing. I don't wanna feel that. Like sun that will keep on burning. And I used to be so discerning. Oh.
For you, everything you've been through, you're clearly somebody, no matter what they put their mind to, you will achieve it. So well done.
Exceptional. We all agree with that. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
In the oceans of me, I designed my recovery.
Wowzers. Wow.
This gentleman knows the truth. He is one. He is oneness. His gift is everywhere present. He is power expressing, not his dis-ease or his wounds or his hurts. May you know at the depth of your being the truth, that you are the one. Have a blessed week. Namaste.
It's always a challenge to come up here after something like that. Thank you. Beautiful, 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 and inspiring.